Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into my channel. I've got another week of picks for the 2021-2022 college football season. Before we get to that though, please be sure to like this video, share it with anyone you think would enjoy it. Also, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you are alerted to when new videos drop here on my channel. Without further ado, we've got a big weekend of college football action. It is the second to last week of the regular season. And there are a couple of top 25 matchups, including a top 10 matchup in the Big Ten to get to. So let's start with the number one team in the nation. Again, we're still using the College Football Playoff Committee rankings on this. So the number one team in the nation is the Georgia Bulldogs. They are home against Charleston Southern. Go with Georgia on this one. The number two team in the nation, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They are home against the number 21 team, the Arkansas Razorbacks. Alabama's last game was against New Mexico State, and they won that 59-3. That game was over very quickly. Earlier this season, though, they played a subpar LSU team, and they barely won at home 20-13. Arkansas comes in with a mobile quarterback, a good running game. I think Alabama knows, though, that they have to win if they want to get in, and they very much want to get into the playoff. They're sitting pretty at number 2. They're going to play Georgia, or it's almost certain that they're going to play Georgia in the SEC championship game, which is going to leave it then up to a potential of having a 2-loss Alabama team maybe being the first 2-loss team to get into the college football playoff, depending on what the committee thinks. Maybe they only lose by a field goal to Georgia in overtime in the SEC title game. None of that happens, though, if Alabama loses this game against Arkansas or loses next week in the Iron Bowl against Auburn, who you know is going to be up for that game. I think Nick Saban is going to have his team in a very business-like mode. I think they're going to take this game very seriously, and I think Alabama gets the job done. The number 3 Oregon Ducks are going on the road in another top 25 matchup against number 23 Utah. If I was Oregon, I'd be a little worried about this game. Utah is not an easy place to play. It's a 7:30 start, so it's a night game. It's going to be cold, high elevation up in the mountains. Utah is going to be jacked for this game. I've been believing in Oregon pretty solidly since that UCLA victory. If you recall, a few weeks ago, I thought they'd lose that game to a UCLA team that had a strong running attack. They were winning that game handily. They let UCLA back in a bit near the end, but they had that game in control for most of it. I'm willing to go with Oregon again, although this game makes me nervous. 7:30 start. This might be a game that's broadcast on ESPN. Maybe this is going to be on Fox or ABC even as a good night game to watch. There's something special about night games at home. It's a top 5 team coming into Utah. Utah's got to be up for that game. Utah's a good team. I don't think they're as good as Oregon, and Oregon has been playing phenomenally well the last few weeks. I'm going to trust that Coach Mario Cristobal is going to have his team ready to go, that they're not going to let themselves be victimized by the Pac-12 cannibalism that tends to happen every year, where they are the conference of good, but not the conference of great. I'm going to roll with Oregon one more week. In the top 10 matchup for this week, we've got the number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes taking on my number 7th ranked Michigan State Spartans. Michigan State is coming off an impressive win against Maryland last week. Ohio State is coming off a very impressive win against the Purdue Boilermakers last week. This game is at Ohio State. I don't think this game is that difficult for me to be able to call because I think Ohio State is the better team in this one. And I think Ohio State, as much as it pains me to say that, I think Ohio State is going to win this game. Michigan's secondary is still not good. They still haven't fixed those problems that they have on the back end. I think Ohio State quarterback C.J. Stroud and wide receiver Chris Olave are going to have a field day with that secondary. They looked incredible against Purdue last week, racking up 59 points. I think Michigan State's in trouble in this one. It's at Ohio State. I think Ohio State is going to end up winning this game, and they're going to hand MSU their second loss on the season. Number 5, the Cincinnati Bearcats. They are home against SMU. The Mustangs come in. They had aspirations of winning the American Athletic Conference. They've lost 1 or 2 games this season, but they are not a team to be messed with. They're not a team to be taken lightly. Cincinnati has not been performing well against subpar teams. I don't know if it's a situation where they're just playing down to the level of their opponent and just eking out some wins here, but they need to play a little bit better. They play better against South Florida, although they did let up 28 points to the Bulls, who are not a good team this year. They're going to have to play better on defense because SMU has a high-powered passing attack, and they're going to have to take it seriously and respect it if they want to stay undefeated and move to 11-0 on the season and stay in the top 5. I'm going to roll with Cincinnati because I think they do get the job done. I think Coach Luke Fickell has done a phenomenal job of keeping his team focused, of keeping their minds off the rankings, off playoff busting, off any of that stuff, and just focusing on winning games week in and week out. I think they will get SMU, but I think this one's close. Number 6, the Michigan Wolverines are taking on the Maryland Terrapins. It's at Maryland. Maryland is coming off a loss to Michigan State last week. Michigan is clearly the better team. They've got a stronger running attack. They are getting back to that running attack after the performance that Cade McNamara put up against Michigan State a few weeks ago in a loss. I wonder, though, if Jim Harbaugh is ever going to be willing to budge and let McNamara throw the ball around a little bit more like he did against MSU, just to make Ohio State, who they have next week, have something else to think about. I don't think Michigan overlooks Maryland because they're looking ahead to the matchup against the Buckeyes. I think they come into this, I think they take care of business, and I think they set up a titanic showdown next week against the Buckeyes. Go with Michigan on this one. Number 7, the aforementioned Michigan State Spartans. I think they are going to lose to Ohio State. So we'll proceed on to the number 8 team in the nation, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They are taking on Georgia Tech. Notre Dame is coming off a 28-3 beatdown of Virginia. I think the beatdowns continue. I think they beat Georgia Tech. It's at Notre Dame. I think they beat them handily. Go with the Irish. Number 9, the Oklahoma State Cowboys, coming off an absolute drubbing of TCU, 63-17. They're at Texas Tech. Texas Tech has hired a brand new coach. I don't know if he's actually coaching in this game or if they're going to let their interim coach handle the next 2 games to end the season. But I don't think it matters. Oklahoma State is a good team. They play good offense. They could play good defense. They're all around a strong team in all facets of the game. Texas Tech is not real good. I'm going to go with the Cowboys on this one to move them to 10-1 and set up a massive showdown against Oklahoma in the Bedlam game next week. Number 10, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, coming off a 3-point win against North Carolina State, 45-42, a defensive struggle, quite obviously. They are on the road at Clemson. Clemson's 7-3 this year, so they're still a good team, but they're not to the level that we're used to seeing Clemson over the last few years. I think Wake Forest comes into this game just like Pittsburgh came into their game against Clemson. Even though this game isn't going to decide who goes to the ACC championship game, even though this game doesn't necessarily have that much importance for Clemson, it has a lot of importance for Wake Forest. I think they want Clemson. I think they want to beat Clemson. They don't want to just go potentially to the ACC championship game with maybe 2 losses on the year and win and look back and say, yeah, but we still couldn't beat Clemson even though they were having a down year. Obviously, offensively, Wake Forest with quarterback Sam Hartman is a powerhouse. They've scored 40-plus points in numerous games, including a couple of games in a row right here. Clemson can also put up some points, and Wake Forest's defense, as we saw against North Carolina and as we saw against North Carolina State, is not good, and they let up lots of points. I think Wake Forest, though, wants this game more. I think Clemson is not normally in the role of playing spoiler, and I don't think they know how to handle that. despite the fact that it's a top 10 matchup and it's in Death Valley. I think Wake Forest rolls in. I think they get the job done, but it's another high-scoring affair, and it's another close win for Wake Forest. But I'll roll with the Deacons this week. Number 11, Baylor, coming off a giant win at home last week against Oklahoma, is on the road against Kansas State. This reminds me very much of the Michigan State Spartans after they beat Michigan. Michigan State gets a giant in-conference win at home, emotional win. Everybody's going nuts. Baylor gets a massive win against an in-conference opponent at home. Everybody's going nuts. Michigan State goes on the road the next week. Baylor goes on the road the next week. Michigan State is playing a team that is good but not ranked and not super well thought of. Baylor's playing a Kansas State team that's not ranked, that's good, but that's not well thought of. Michigan State ends up getting beat, and it didn't look that close. Baylor, I think, is going to win this game because unlike Michigan State, Baylor does not have any glaring weaknesses. Michigan State has a glaring weakness in that their pass defense is terrible. Baylor has a strong defense with Jerry Bohannon. They've got a good offense. He can run the ball. He's not great at throwing the ball, but he can do enough damage through the air that he makes defenses have to account for him, both passing and running, which is problematic for defenses. Kansas State, I don't think will have enough offensively to handle it. I think Baylor's defense gets the job done enough in this game. I'm going to go with Baylor, but close. I think they are victimized by the lazy, not real motivated feeling, having a letdown after winning against Oklahoma, but I think they do enough to get the job done against Kansas State, excuse me. Number 12, Ole Miss, the Rebels, coming off a big win against Texas A&M last week. They are taking on Vanderbilt at home. Go with Ole Miss because Vanderbilt ain't no good. Number 13, Oklahoma, coming off their loss on the road at Baylor and moving out of the top 10. They are home against Iowa State. At the beginning of the season, this matchup looked like it was going to be the premier matchup in the Big 12 this season. Everybody was looking to November 20th, Oklahoma, Iowa State. Iowa State going on the road to Oklahoma. Iowa State's had a subpar year. They've lost like 3 games this season, I think. They're not playing up to the level that we thought they were going to play at. And even some of the games they're winning, they're not winning them easily. I think Oklahoma is angry. And I think they know because the Big 12 doesn't have a championship game. They do the round robin where everybody plays each other. And then the 2 top teams play again in the championship game. Oklahoma can't lose another game. And they've got the huge Bedlam game against a top 10 Oklahoma State team next week. They cannot afford to overlook Iowa State, but I don't think they will. I think they're angry about that Baylor loss. I think they're pissed because Baylor kicked a field goal with like 2 seconds to go in the game when it was assured. Baylor head coach Dave Aranda said it was for tiebreaker purposes. I think Oklahoma head coach Lincoln Riley feels stung by that, and he wants Baylor, I think, to be the team they play in the championship game to get revenge. But they got to take care of business against Iowa State. And I think they will, and I don't think it's close. Go with Oklahoma. Number 14, Baylor is taking on Georgia Southern. BYU is traveling all across the country. They're at Georgia Southern, but BYU is still a good team. They got 2 losses on the year, but they're still a very good team. They still have a high-powered offense, racking up 59 points against Idaho State last week. I'm going to roll with the Cougs again from BYU. Number 15, the Wisconsin Badgers, 7-3 after starting the season 1-3. 6 straight wins. They're taking on Nebraska at home. Nebraska will be a tough out for them, but they will get Nebraska at home. Go with Wisconsin on this one. Number 16, the Texas A&M Aggies coming off a loss against Mississippi last week. They are taking on Prairie View at home. Go with Texas A&M. Probably that game is going to be over by halftime. Number 17, the Iowa Hawkeyes. They are 8-2. They're coming off a 5-point win on the road against Minnesota last week. They are taking on Illinois. I don't think Illinois has another big upset in them. I'm going to go with Iowa, despite their abysmal offense. They did score 27 points last week, which is good. Well, I should say it's better. I don't know if it's good necessarily, but I'm going to roll with the Iowa Hawkeyes again. Number 18, Pittsburgh, coming off a 7-point win on the road against North Carolina last week. They are taking on Virginia, who just had one of the worst games of the season, only mustering 3 points against Notre Dame. I think Pittsburgh is going to win this game. Virginia started out strong and looked like they were potentially going to have a decent to good season. The wheels are starting to fall off. Their quarterback is playing hurt. They don't know whether or not he's going to play. I'm going to roll with Kenny Pickett, the veteran quarterback for Pittsburgh, and I'm going to go with the Pitt Panthers. The San Diego State Aztecs rolling in at 9-1, coming off a huge win against in-division opponent Nevada last week by 2 points. They're taking on UNLV tonight at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I am almost certainly not going to stay up to watch that game. That is just far too late for me. I'm going to go with San Diego State because I don't think UNLV is all that good. They are 2-8. I think San Diego State takes care of business, and they move to 10-1 on the year. North Carolina State, coming off their 3-point loss to Wake last week, they are taking on Syracuse at home. I'm going to go with North Carolina State, taking some anger out on the Orange. Number 21, Arkansas. I've already said they are going to lose to number 2, Alabama, on the road tomorrow. Number 22, UTSA, the Roadrunners, continuing their winning ways. They are 10-0 on the season now, but they looked very bad against a 1-8 Southern Miss team last week and needed a couple of turnovers at the end of the game, like in the last half of the fourth quarter, to secure a 10-point win. They're taking on a 7-3 Alabama Birmingham team that could be dangerous. UTSA, I think, is a good team. I don't really know that much about UAB. I'm going to roll, therefore, with UTSA like I've been for the last few weeks. And hopefully they'll get up for a better opponent. And I'm willing to believe that last week was just a flat-footed start because they didn't really think they were going to be troubled by a 1-8 team. And then surprise, surprise, it's the fourth quarter and the game's incredibly close. I think they'll be up for this game. I think this is more important to them. I'm going to go with UTSA. Number 23, the Utah Utes. I've already said I think, although I'm not real confident in this pick, are going to lose to Oregon. Oregon's a strong team. These teams have had some classic matchups in recent years. I would expect this one to be another one. I think Utah's going to go down, but I'm really nervous about this pick. Number 24, the 9-1 Houston Cougars, finally getting some love from the College Football Playoff Committee, which, again, I'm going to say this pretty much every week. They are clearly showing that they don't give a crap about Group of 5 schools, They don't care about them. They don't want to rank them. Houston's 9-1. They've won 8 straight after losing to Texas Tech earlier this season. They are taking on Memphis, which is a 5-5 team. That game starts tonight at 9 o'clock. That's about 3.5 hours from now. I'm going to roll with Houston and Coach Dana Holgorsen. I think they're setting up for a titanic matchup against Cincinnati later this season. I think Memphis is a good team. They're 500. I think they're a little bit better than the record might be indicating, but it's at Houston. I don't think they're going to they're going to be able to handle Houston's offense. Go with the Houston Cougars. And then to round out the top 25 for this week, we've got the Mississippi State Bulldogs at 6-4. I don't understand how a 6-4 team has made it into the top 25. They're coming off a big win against Auburn last week. They're taking on Tennessee State at home. Look for the air raid offense to just bomb Tennessee State out of the stadium. Go with the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And that's it. We've got 3 top 25 matchups this week. One of them is a top 10 matchup. Nobody's got a bye week. So lots of games on the schedule for this week's matchups. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to like this video, share it with everyone you know, subscribe to my channel, and turn on those notifications so that way you'll be alerted to new videos that drop on my channel about college football, about Robert's Rules of Order, about history, about whatever else I might make some videos on. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all again next week.